Well, I'm glad to have you on the show, Scott.
Yo, I appreciate it, man. And I don't know if I sent you a message a few days ago asking about your webcam. I appreciate you getting back to me, bro.
You're very welcome. I'm glad to have a listener on the show. Actually, it's wonderful to know that you watch the show also.
Yeah, man. I was watching some stuff today. I'm like, this dude is so smart.
No, I just try hard. I'm just a try hard.
All those books in the back, bro. You must read every single one of those things, huh?
Yeah, I try to read most of them, but sometimes when you have a big library, it's useful to like use as a library, so like a resource, you know. So sometimes I buy books that I don't necessarily read fully from back to front or from front to back.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, I want to offer an apology to the audience ahead of time. So we were supposed to record yesterday. Normally, every week, I take cerebrolysin on a Tuesday evening after we record. I took it anyway. Unfortunately, the company sent me 10 milliliter ampules, and I didn't want to waste any of it. So I took 10 milliliters. So I didn't expect that I would have so much brain fog as I do today. So I'm really relaxed, and I have a lot of brain fog. So I'm going to be very stupid. So I apologize for that ahead of time. Like the day that Boston took that Mirtazapine. Remember that?
Oh, dude, that fucked me up so bad.
They had no idea, though. We never explained that day why you were like not talkative.
Yeah.
All right. So before we start, I wanted to ask you guys: is there anything going on in the bodybuilding world? Is the Chicago Pro soon?
I think the Chicago Pro is the next show coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, but the
Puerto Rico is coming up.
Chicago's still a ways away. I think Chicago's still like 10 weeks away because I just know Keon's doing it and he doesn't look like he's that close to a show. So,
oh, that guy's fantastic. Is he feeling better?
I would assume so. Yeah.
He was really depressed before.
Yeah, I know. And people were giving him a lot of shit, and it's like, relax. Keon will go to any Olympia that he wants to go to. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's super young, dude. He's like 23 or 24. That's crazy.
Yeah. Did you see? He was natural up until he moved to 212. Or no, actually the Olympia maybe. But just recently,
I heard he was doing PJ's pro hormones. That's it.
Yeah.
Which to me, that's not natural. But yeah, I could see like no injectables. People think if they're not injecting shit, they're natural. I'm like, oh my God.
That's true.
But I mean, you can still tell the way he blew up. Like, crazy, you know?
Oh yeah.
You
know what though? His conditioning is his issue though. He's not he from the back, you know, his glutes and his hams. He needs to come in drier.
Yeah, he's also really new, you know, like as a bodybuilder, I feel like takes a little time, I guess.
No, he'll be one of the best for sure.
Yeah.
Is it easier to get drier the more competitions you go to?
I would say so.
He's got a lot of muscle on him, so he doesn't like lack that issue. I'm hoping for myself that, you know, the longer I get in the sport, the drier I can get, leaner I can get.
You placed in the top 10 in the last Olympia, right?
No, I didn't. I placed 16th. But 16th. Yeah, I just moved up to Classic though last year.
Yeah, you have incredible physique. I was looking at your Instagram. By the way, we also share lion tattoos. So you have a lion tattoo. You have one here?
Yeah. It was a cover-up, man. Yeah.
Oh, it's a cover-up, really?
I got a tribal armband when I was like 18, and then I wanted a tattoo so bad, and then I was like, I gotta get rid of this thing, so I put a lion over it.
That's funny. One of my clients actually messaged me the other day, and he was like, I want to get a tattoo. I know you have a lot of tattoos, so I want to ask your advice. And he had this kind of like really trendy, I don't know if you've ever seen the European guys that do like a design and then like circles around it and lines and like things like that. So maybe we could take this opportunity to warn the audience. Don't ever get a tattoo that's trendy. Don't get tribal. Yeah. Don't get something that looks weird and looks fun and current that's very popular, because you're going to regret it in about 10 years.
Absolutely. I wish I didn't have any. I like my tattoo, but it's like, it's a cover up, so it's not as good as it could have been had it been just like a fresh tattoo, you know?
Exactly. I have probably 7 or so lions, I think, on my from
really
tattoo. None are cover ups.
I love it. Yeah. I figured that. I figured you didn't have any tribal armband tattoos on you.
Yeah, but I made mistakes too. So like when I came to I've been in the US for 6 years continuously, and I first started getting tattoos in Europe, and my European tattoos are way better than my American tattoos. I regret getting any tattoos in America, generally.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I didn't do them. Like, I have tattoos from Mr. Cartoon, who did the Lakers sign. He's the celebrity tattoo guy. And Norm, who died, who's a wonderful guy. And from Alan Padilla. But they're really not great compared to the European ones. Anyway, guys, so... one last thing that I wanted to mention. Have you guys seen the arm wrestling match between Devon Larratt and Michael Todd? Did you see it?
Who won?
Devon won, but it was insane.
No.
You guys don't watch that? Okay, you have to. When you get off, well, I don't know how interesting it'll be because you guys don't watch arm wrestling, but listen, Boston, you'll be interested in this. So Devon basically, people think Devon was natural before. He wasn't. But in this competition, I thought Michael Todd would win. Devon comes in like double the size that he normally is. He gained like 80 pounds in 8 months. He was so powerful that his opponent couldn't move his hand at all from center. And it was basically chemical warfare. So it's really interesting to speculate on what it is. I'll send you a link afterwards.
Who's Michael Todd? I know who Kevin...
Michael Todd's like one of the most famous American. Devon's a Canadian. Michael Todd's an American.
Where can I see the match?
I'll send you a link afterwards. Okay. Yeah, it's fascinating. Okay, so let's start. So this week I've actually did it properly. So I'm gonna try to share my screen with you guys so we can start. Now, before we do, I want to mention this rate my physique thing. I'm not trying to copy Fuad's channel. We're not trying to rate your physique. We're trying to rate your genetics, your potential. That's the idea. So the idea is like, obviously I'm no expert on genetics. I just like study SNPs and stuff, but it's interesting to think about being someone like I tried to be a weightlifter and I know my limitations of my genetics. Boston's really experienced with this also. So that's the goal here. Now, some people sent in. So in the future, if you send in your stuff, tell us your lifts, how long you've been lifting, your goals, your best and worst lifts. I'm curious about that also. And then maybe a progression of how your physique looks over time. But anyway, so now I'm gonna try to share my screen with you guys, and I think it's gonna work this time. All right, so we'll start with rate my genetics. You guys see it?
Yep, we see it. I see it.
So there's a bunch of people. I don't know how many we'll go through, but we'll start with one. Oh wait, this is very long, but this is interesting actually, because the guy has. So he says, I'm 26 years old and 6'3". I work a manual labor job. Don't intend to be a bodybuilder. Enjoy working out. I'm pursuing the Instagram fitness model thing. I've attached 2 photos. One is my last year after I let myself go for 2 years and got really fat and depressed. Then I spent all this year getting back on track, lost most of that weight while on 125 milligrams test C TRT dose. The second picture is before and after when I so basically he bumped his test from 125 to 500. And I think it's a weight loss thing. I'll show you guys the pictures. So this is this year, 2021. Wait, there's an older one. This is last year.
We're gonna hurt these guys' feelings, man. This is
no. Oh, but this is a useful one because we should talk about it because I thought this one was interesting. No, some of the others are really impressive, Boston. But he lost weight. I wanted to say that maybe I could start first. I wanted to say that he has gynecomastia and it's quite a significant amount. So this is like a significant amount of gland. It's not just gland removal. It's also adipose tissue. And it's I think he can't be an Instagram kind of guy if he has that. Second of all, I think he has potentially, if he's been working out, I don't know how long consistently he's been working out. I can't read the whole thing, but I think that he has poor potential for muscle development. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, that's from March to May, he literally didn't change much at all.
Yeah, and the whole gyno thing, I mean, if anybody knows me, they know like gyno is a big thing for me. Once I see gyno, it's like, no.
Yeah, he has to remove it. I would highly recommend Dr. Cruz in Newport Beach, although I know Boston had used someone else, but that guy's really great. This guy says, hey Leo, love the show. Been watching for a while, so I figured I'd send over some pictures to see what you guys thought of my genetics. Been lifting for about 3 years, bodybuilding for 2, 5'8", 176 middleweight in these photos, 210 at my heaviest last off season.
All right, so here we go. This guy has decent genetics.
I know. I saw this. I was just, my assistant put these together, but impressive, huh?
Yeah,
how old did he say he was?
Let me see. I think he's quite young.
How tall is he? He looks tall in those pictures, but what did he say? He was 5'8"?
He's 5'8", but he didn't say his age.
He's only been lifting for 3 years. That's pretty damn good for only lifting for 3 years.
Yeah, he looks good. The side shots are impressive, too.
I think this guy has...
I would say he looks best from the side.
He has a lot of potential, right?
Yeah,
he does. Yeah, definitely.
I think he's doing the right thing. He's in the right sport. So he wants Boston's honest critique. I'm no beta, go all out. I'm 20 years old, 6'3", 215. So he's your height, Boston. And he's 20.
I would say for 20, that's a good physique. For 20 years old, that's a good physique.
Yeah, man. 20 years old. He looks way better than I looked at 20 years old.
He looked pretty close to what I did at 20.
Yeah. For he's tall too. I didn't realize you were that tall. That's tall, man.
Well, I'm 6'2", so he's an inch taller than me.
I mean, yeah, that's tall.
But yeah, he's probably a lot bigger in person too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like this guy's genetics because being so young, and I don't think I look like that at 20. I look like that at 21, but at 20, this kid looked pretty damn good.
But the shape of his muscle is not great for bodybuilding, is it?
Well, let me see the front shot.
I mean, he's gonna have a tough time just being 6'3". I mean, filling out a frame that's that tall is
I don't
not
think
gonna be easy.
Mr. Olympia or anything.
Yeah.
But, it's hard to say because he just needs to put on more muscle. Because if this kid adds another 15 pounds of muscle, his shape could actually look pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. But he's not like elite tier genetics.
No, I mean,
the shape of the muscle, it's not just about how much he has, I would think. Okay, This is IKC. This guy's always commenting and supporting the podcast. He wants his genetics rated 5 weeks out from a show. Well, let's look what they are. This guy is very impressive. Wait,
what's up with that lighting? Fuck.
Yeah, the lighting sucks. He's in China. I don't know if that affects things, but
nah, it's hard to tell. He looks good.
Yeah, he looks like he's put together well, but because the lighting is so bad.
Yeah.
We have to read more about it. I wonder how long he's been doing this. So I'll go back to it, but I just wanted to see. Oh, fascinating. Let's go back to this. I want to see how long he's been. Second show, bodybuilding since 2017 only.
So 4 years. Yeah, he looks pretty good. I wouldn't say he's amazing, but I would say he's pretty good.
Yeah, he looks good.
Yeah, let's go back here. So that was Isaac. Maybe we'll go through one more.
Oh, wow. This guy's impressive.
This guy's 6'2".
What's up with all these tall? These guys are
this
huge.
guy's good.
Yeah, he looks good, man.
Damn, for 6'2", that's really good because...
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This guy doesn't look 6'2".
But no, he doesn't.
Nobody tells us... They don't tell us how long they've been lifting or any. How can we rate your? We don't know what you've been doing. If you've been blasting for 5 years and lifting, you might have maxed out. I'll do one more, and then we'll go through the other ones next time. Oh, this is not enough information. I don't want to do this one. This is a young guy. Wondered if I had decent genetics. The leanest I've been. I saw this one. I wanted to leave it in because I don't think that this guy is trained much, but this is an interesting muscle, right? And proportions.
Muscle bellies.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, he wants to know if he has decent genetics. I'd say based on those pictures.
He does, right?
Decent. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. All right. So we have some more. Let's critique some cycles, and then we'll do one blood work one, and then we'll go back to the questions. So let's start here.
These are going to be interesting.
Yeah, last time we got more here. So this is Guchi Daddy. He says he's taking 125 milligrams of Sustanon every other day, Proviron twice daily, 10 to 20 milligrams of D-ball pre-workout, and 0.5 milligrams of Arimidex every 3 days. He's looking for a cycle that keeps his libido and dick tanked. Any suggestions would be greatly appreciated. What do you guys think? I have some ideas.
It's not terrible, but I mean, okay, so 125 tests every other day. That's like close to 400 mgs of test a week. That's Proviron. He doesn't even tell us how much he's taking. Let's just guess 25 mgs twice a day.
Yeah, that's more.
D-ball pre-workout. It's a baby cycle, but if it's his first cycle, I think it's good. Like if it's a first cycle, I wouldn't be. Well, you know me, I like my first cycle to be just 500 mgs a test. But
I mean, if this is a cycle, I would.
What do you think, Scott?
I don't really have any experience with it, honestly. I can't really say much about it.
You've never tried D-ball?
Oh, D-ball? Yeah, like way back in the day. I really don't. I'm not a big oral guy. Like I know people like to do their Kickstarters, but I'm not a fan, honestly, myself. I mean, I feel like you just
don't run like oral Winstrol and prep.
And no, I'll run Winstrol. Yeah, T-ball. Okay. No, I mean, I'm talking about like your Kickstarters.
Okay.
He's doing it pre-workout, not just like a.
No. I mean, it's fun. I mean, pre-workout, you feel big and strong, but I after like my first off-season cycle, I never touched it.
What do you think of the Sustanon, Boston? Is that your preferred testosterone? Do you like Sustanon?
If you're shooting it every other day, yeah. So I like to switch esters every like 8 to 10 weeks, regardless, even if it's test. So I have my clients do Sustanon every other day or 3 times a week for 8 weeks, and then I'll have them do test sip, and I'll switch it up.
Okay, here's my ideas. First of all, I don't like Sustanon because it's a bunch of different esters. It prevents you from being able to switch things up because you're already used to all the different esters, in my opinion. Plus, I just hated Sustanon personally, but that's just an opinion, right? Proviron, though, there is academic evidence as well as personal evidence that if you use it for a couple of weeks straight, the effects subside. There's tachyphylaxis. If you want to use Proviron for your libido, use it maximum 3-4 days a week. Otherwise, you'll adapt to it. Does have some effects on libido or whatever the hell it's called, but they're not that dramatic. Like I think that they're probably via the psychological effects of the increased testosterone uptake, maybe to the brain or something like that. Personally, I don't like D-ball as a pre-workout as much as Anadrol. I think using an oral pre-workout is mainly useful to get yourself stronger so you can lift more in the gym. And if so, most people, I would say 90% respond better to Anadrol. But some people like D-ball. I agree. And then for the
I wish these guys, Leo, next time, make sure they list their goals. Because, I mean, this guy says, just to keep this libido and dick tanked. I mean, what the fuck?
So if you want your libido to be maximized, what you would do is take a replacement dose of HCG, because there's a difference between having testosterone in your body versus locally around your dick. It's way more powerful when you have it produced locally around your gonads and your penis. So if you take HCG and FSH, 75 units of FSH, 2,500 units of HCG, you'll get way more sexually than you will out of this 125 testosterone, honestly. And then, to be honest with you, if you want to have insane sex drive, you could take more test on top of it, and then you could take Proviron on the days that you need it. And about the Arimidex, all I would do is do blood work and keep for your libido issues, keep your estradiol below 40, between like 15 and 40. That's all you have to do, I think. Let's move on to another one. So this guy doesn't tell us anything about his goals. Sorry about that, Boston. All he says is 600 test, 600 EQ, 300 NPP. And he says, should I go higher on doses or keep it? So the reason why I included this one, I just wanted to say, like, you don't go higher on doses unless you're not getting results, in my opinion. You can always take more of a drug, any drug.
I'd actually lower the EQ to 400.
Right? Yeah, the EQ
I would lower the EQ to 400 on this.
I also don't like EQ personally. I prefer Primo, injectable Primo. But I know Boston doesn't. Boston never gets side effects.
They both raise the red blood cell count. They both work.
Primo does a lot also. You notice that, Boston?
Yeah, no, Primo for me, but I have to run higher dosages of Primo. For instance, I would say, if you're going to 600 mgs of EQ I would run like 800 mgs of Primo. It's not milligram per milligram. You're going to get a little bit strength gains on EQ more than compared to Primo, but Primo is a lot cleaner and a lot less side effects, in my opinion.
Same, I agree. And the 300 NPP, I think, is... Wait, NPP a week? Oh, okay. Well, anyway. I think that's great for joints and things like that.
I like combining EQ and NPP. So I think this is a good cycle. I would just lower the EQ to 400.
And AW Fitness Lover, I have gained a little bit of muscle, but quite a bit of strength since I went back. Although I have the finger problem.
You know what's the worst thing about that cycle, Leo?
What?
Is he didn't list his anti-estrogen.
Yeah, I didn't mention it. Okay, guys, you need to be more comprehensive.
That would be horrible. Then that cycle would go to shit.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, so this guy says, what would be a good third cycle if someone were wanting to put on a significant amount of size but maintaining fertility? I thought Boston would have an interesting idea on this. So he's using first two blasts were 350 test E per week, and the second one was 525 test E per week. He's been cruising on 180 tests since. And he said he cannot get real Primo or Anavar. Yes, you can. That's not true.
Yeah, you can get that shit right on the forum.
Yeah, I know. That's. I just want to mention that. And he says he aromatizes a lot and has not had gyno surgery. What would you do as a third one? This guy's done 350, 525, and he wants to maintain fertility.
Well, maintaining fertility is ridiculous because I don't have my clients change a thing when they get their chicks pregnant right away when they add in the fertility. So if he's worried about fertility, as long as he's running the right fertility drugs, he doesn't have to worry, in my opinion. But a safe cycle after that on your third cycle would be to add something in. Keep the test the same and add in like 400 EQ or 400 Primo.
Exactly. Great point. All you have to do is keep your HCG and FSH in, and the testosterone and or EQ or Primo won't have such a negative feedback to your brain, to your hypothalamus. So the worst thing you could do if you're going to add another drug would be to add NPP or DECA or Trenbolone. Those might have the biggest impact.
I would say those drugs are probably the harshest on your fertility. But saying that, I've had so many clients that have been on 400 mgs of Tren, 600 Tren that have gotten their. Now, I will tell you, I haven't designed a fertility protocol with any DECA or NPP in it, but I have had some clients stay on Tren, and it happened.
Yeah, I'm sure it would still work, but just like to be careful. I mean, because he's asking that. And about the aromatization, all you have to do is keep your estradiol between 15 and 40, and you're not going to get gland growth. You can just do a blood test, 1 week in, 2 weeks in, something like that. Of course, this is not medical advice. I'm just mentioning that. Okay. Masshole Muscle. That's a crazy name. This guy says...
Look at the cycle. Oh, my God.
So... He's taking...
What the fuck? 175 inject D-ball?
I don't think that's daily, is it?
That better be weekly.
Yeah, I think that's weekly. Okay, so he's doing a Boston generic GH type of thing. He likes the generic. And he's taking Prami at night. So do you guys have any thoughts on this? I have some thoughts.
You know what this reminds me of?
Yourself?
Dude, he's going to fucking get so mad that I'm going to say this. Fucking Phil Viz in number 7. That motherfucker loves 7 units of insulin, 7 units of growth hormone. I guarantee you this is a Phil Viz cycle.
You know why, Boston? 7 is the number that people love to use when they want to guess a number. So if you look at the Quran, for example, there's 7 heavens. It comes from Judaism. There's 7 a lot of things. When people like to make up stuff, I'm not saying that's made up, but when people make up numbers, they pick 7 because it sounds like there's a lot of research on that. Anyway, so
it could be bullshit, but he, according to a guy that hit me up, Phil Viz told him that he has to, after he takes the insulin shot, he has to start his first set exactly 37 minutes after the shot. I'm not kidding you, dude.
Phil's our buddy, but he's a little neurotic for sure. Yeah. He knows that. He's pretty neurotic. Okay, so
I like the cycle besides the keeping the test and the EQ the same. I would bring the EQ down to 800.
What about you, Scott? Do you have any thoughts on this?
I mean, honestly, like these cycles are like way above like what I would personally ever do. So for me, like looking at this, like I wonder like what is this guy doing? Like is he a bodybuilder? Is he open bodybuilder?
We need more
like
info.
Yeah, because like I said, I mean, I'm like so mild compared to like some of these cycles that I see in these guys, and I just can't personally. I mean.
I know.
Fathom,
You wouldn't run this cycle and bring down the EQ to 800. It would be way too much for you.
EQ, I wouldn't. I mean, personally, I've never ran it that high, so no. I mean, maybe, but maybe I mean, I never have.
Bodybuilding. Maybe you turn into a bodybuilder if you took a cycle like this.
Honestly, you know what? That's probably what's holding me back. I probably would.
So let's.
You should try it for 6 weeks.
Let's mention something to the audience. So people have different metabolic profiles. Your metabolism isn't just how fat you are, but also how quickly you metabolize drugs. So maybe Scott, for example, is a slow metabolizer. So if he injects a gram of EQ a week, he has more in his bloodstream than other people who are fast metabolizers. Like I'm a fast metabolizer of drugs. So if I take any drug, almost any drug, honestly, I metabolize them very fast. Like the drug will be out of my system faster. If I do cocaine, it'll leave me faster than somebody else. Not just cocaine, almost any drug, like including steroids. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And usually faster metabolizers have less side effects. less residence time in the body and so on. And you can find out if you're a fast metabolizer by going on 23andMe and then going through your CYP enzyme polymorphisms and other polymorphisms. But I wanted to mention a couple of things that struck out to me. Number one, this is a harsh cycle. So just keep that in mind. You may be doing some damage to your body. You have trenbolone there and injectable dianabol. So you have some things that are known to be, I don't know if dianabol is highly androgenic, but trenbolone is definitely. I've taken
injectable D-bol is really androgenic.
And then the other thing is that you're taking 7 units of GH every day. So I've recently came across some research that shows that you may get less insulin resistance if you inject that GH every other day. And I was thinking about this, talking to my client the other day, and I was thinking it may be better to use more than one kind of GH. So for example, if you inject GH every other day and then use nortotropin one day, and then another 2 days later use genotropin, and then 2 days later use Serostim or something like that, you may develop less antibodies to the GH and get more out of less. Potentially. Another thing I wanted to mention is pramipexole is a dopamine receptor agonist. You don't want to take that at night. You're supposed to have high dopamine levels in the morning, not at night. And also, before taking Prami, you could consider doing something else that's dopaminergic, like using something lighter, using your own dopamine system, like Wellbutrin or amphetamines or something else, because Prami is a sledgehammer that is going straight to the dopamine receptors and causing them to downregulate. Now, you're taking that because you're expecting to have progesterone signaling and get higher prolactin. If you keep your estradiol between 20 and 40, you're going to get the least amount of prolactin that you can. You can't control the progesterone signaling because you have tren in there, but you can there's a couple of ways to lower prolactin. One is to lower progesterone and estradiol, and the other one is to raise dopamine signaling. You're using a sledgehammer approach with pramipexole and not, I guess, doing blood work to see how higher estradiol is. So that's a couple of thoughts, I think.
Leo, it's funny you mentioned that about the growth hormone. I did that once and I actually responded well. It could have been the drugs I was on too. But What I did was I tested 4 different growth hormones that tested very good, just as good as pharma. I put them in my fridge. I had the different generics there. And one day, one dose, it wasn't every day, but it would be 1 dose in the morning. I would use this brand. Pre-workout, use this brand. Before bed, use this brand. And I responded well.
I was just thinking that. I bet if more people tried that out, they'd respond well. It makes sense, right?
Yeah, I think so. You remember Dorian Yates came out and said he used 14 IUs of growth hormone only on his training days. And he only trained 4 days a week.
Oh, fascinating. This is an interesting discussion. Okay, we need to clip this one so more people can think about using this. As a harm reduction protocol also, you probably need to use less if you're using it, and you probably get less insulin resistance if it's not daily. So this is the last one we'll review. It's the guy in China. He said, here's the cycle I was recommended by a local Chinese coach and judge of Chinese Bodybuilding Federation. So this sounded interesting to me. I'm curious what the Chinese are doing. He said there's too much for him, but he might do 50% of the milligrams. So test is 1.2 grams a week. DECA is 900 milligrams a week. GH is 5 to 10 units a day. Humalog 8 to 12 units pre and post workout. Pre also, interesting. D-bol or anadrol 50 or 100 milligrams a day. Pre-workout if it's D-bol, spread through the day if it's anadrol. I notice a lot of people do that. This is Chad Nichols type of thing, right? 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off. And then 1 milligram of Arimidex a day, 0.5 milligrams of Caber twice a week. So definitely, instead of Caber, pramipexole. Caber associated with heart fibrosis at higher doses than this, but still, there's no reason to use it unless you have a bad metabolism of Caber. And if you don't like pramipexole, you can use another non-ergot-derived dopamine receptor agonist. And then the contest cycle says, same as the off-season, he adds in Clen and T3, working up to 120 micrograms of Clen and 50 micrograms of T3.
Yes, a lot of T3.
And continue Clen and T3 until show day. What is this 8 weeks out? Okay, we're just gonna stick with this. So what do you guys think?
He's saying 8 weeks out. He drops the test to test probe and uses Trinate. So that's what he uses. So I like that pre-contest cycle.
What do you think of this one? Do you think this is overkill?
I like that cycle a lot. If you would bring the DECA down to 600.
Interesting.
I think so too.
I don't think DECA after 500 mgs is gonna 500, 600 mgs of DECA. I don't think there's gonna be any more benefits. I really don't.
You're right. I've tried that many times. It doesn't really get that much. Going to a gram is not that helpful from 600.
No, hell no.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, this was cool. This was fun, huh?
I talked to JP Fucks, and he's honest as it comes, man. He'll be like, yeah, I used 100 to 150 units of insulin every day. He's super honest. But when it comes to DECA and test, he ran a gram of pharmaceutical test, and he ran like 500 DECA and like a lot of growth hormone.
Wait, we didn't comment on one thing. What's this pre-workout insulin? Oh, wait, there was another guy. We'll review him next time. But what's this pre-workout? Why pre-workout insulin? Why pre?
A lot of people are doing pre now, and I will put it pre sometimes to prioritize a weak body part. Like
I take it. I do too.
You do too?
I do too. Yeah.
Do you get hypoglycemic in the gym?
No.
Or you're drinking? You're drinking. Are you drinking like Gatorade?
Yeah, I'll drink like an intra workout. I'll get like 50 grams of carbs in intra workout, but I'm only doing like maybe 4 or 5 IUs.
Interesting. Okay. And
I've seen it work very good on weak body parts, Leo.
Interesting. Okay, I have no idea what I'm talking about here.
But I'll tell you what. You know how Milos likes to do 25 units, like Mike Wills was saying. Remember, he does 25 pre and post.
That sounds like overkill. It sounds like it'd be hard to train. Okay, so we're going to review one blood work this time, and next time I'll do Michael and Trevor. This time we'll do Lee. So I know this is going to be a little detailed, but it hopefully should be interesting. I want to mention ahead of time, I'm not a doctor. None of us are doctors. This is not medical advice. You should consult with a doctor. We're just, as observers, speculating on what you might want to look out for. So this is an African-American gentleman. He says, can you please evaluate and give me some helpful feedback based on what you see? Thank you, Leo. If you can block out my name, we've done that. He's a male. He's 31 years old. He's 6'2". He's African-American, which is important. And he's 198 pounds.
Which is important.
It's important because we're going to see now. I've looked at this a little bit ahead of time. And so I'm going to try to zoom in a bit so you guys can see it well. And then I'm going to click. Oh, what the sorry, guys. I have like.
Oh, look at his creatinine.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things going. That's why I said African-American is important. So, so number one, your C-reactive protein is 0.5. That's above the level that's considered optimal. So they're mentioning optimal is less than 1.0. Really, if you have above 0.3, you have a little bit of systemic inflammation. Not that concerning, but you do. So that's a little interesting. It could be maybe you got the vaccine or something like that. I've seen some people with higher C-reactive proteins afterwards. Your glucose is high. What does this mean? This could mean you're a little bit insulin resistant, or you were stressed that morning. You had a cortisol spike, something like that. We'll look at your HbA1c, but the way you could test this out is by doing an oral glucose tolerance test. So the doctor could give you a glucose challenge and then check your glucose level and your serum insulin levels at regular intervals for a 2 to 3 hour period. By the way, guys, in the future, if you want to know which blood tests I do for people that don't have problems, you can go to my website, and I added them recently to the website so you can see which biomarkers I look at. His urea nitrogen is normal. Look at that creatinine at 32 years old. So this is a really high creatinine for a guy. Now, of course, you're African-American. Maybe you have the APOL1 variant, but this is really concerning. So your kidney, we don't know exact. I don't know if you have your SD.
His GFR is like 70 though.
Yeah, but that's just a calculation. I mean, maybe you're very muscular. I forgot his name, but Lee. We don't know if you're very muscular, but this is high. When I was really muscular, or as muscular as I was, it was my maximum was 1.25 or something like that, and I was eating a lot of protein and everything. So there's something going on with your kidneys. There's something. So you should get your SDMA calculated and your cystatin C, symmetric dimethyl arginine, so you can get those two to compare it to. Your ALT and AST these could be a little high because you're muscular also. These are not considered high on this scale, but most of the people in the US have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Not most, but a large percentage of the average population. So this is actually high. So somebody that's not muscular should be around 10 to 30 or so, 15 to 30. So who knows? This could be just that you're muscular, as I said. Your albumin is good. Okay. Wait, I'm trying to scroll down. Oh, it's not. There's nothing to scroll down to. So let's see his testosterone. Wow. So he's not on testosterone, huh?
That's a good natural testosterone level, though.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. And so your estradiol is 48, which is a nice level also. Let's look at the other blood tests. I think it gets a little worse. So your ferritin is not so high. So this is something for people to keep in mind. If you have this lower, you may live longer potentially. Your serum insulin level is not very indicative. It's not very useful unless you have it across a time frame, like the OGTT test that I just mentioned. As hematocrit is normal. Neutrophils. So your neutrophils, useful indicator of non-specific immune function. whereas lymphocytes are specific immune function. Your neutrophil over lymphocyte ratio can sometimes give you an indicator of whether you have like an autoimmune condition or systemic inflammation. Now this, oh yeah, it does get worse. Okay, so this is why I really wanted to review this, guys. So next week we'll review another, guys, but let's look at this. So his total cholesterol is 258. So in America, the American Medical Association considers that if you have a total cholesterol over 300, you're very close to that, you would be considered to have familial hypercholesterolemia, a genetic predisposition to having extremely high lipid levels, which is very, very dangerous. So you're almost at that level already. Your HDL cholesterol is very low. You have, unless you're on steroids, you have some genetic predisposition towards this. And your LDL cholesterol is insanely high. That's 201. Your triglycerides are not that high, meaning that you probably don't have insulin resistance or metabolic syndrome. And now there are contrarians in the cholesterol world that'll tell you that if you have low triglycerides, I mean, this is not very low, but if you have a lower than LDL cholesterol comparatively, that you're safe. But really, if you go by the mainstream opinion, 201. So it's never been shown that people develop plaque in their arteries at a number lower than 70. Now you're more than double that. So normally you would be developing plaque depending on your inflammation level at a rapid rate. And most doctors would tell you to get on some cholesterol medication that has been known to extend life, like something like Ezetimibe, Bempedoic acid, statins, or a PCSK9 inhibitor. So these are some ratios you have here, and some more. There are more specific. He goes into some. Let me see if I can see it. They have. Oh yeah, see, they go by the particle number, which is really useful, by the way. Excellent that this guy got tested. So your LDL cholesterol is a measure of your amount of cholesterol in your low-density lipoprotein particles. This is actually a count of the particles. Why do people do this? Because there's a guy called Ron. I think his last name is Strauss, but I forgot his last name. But anyway, this guy published some research showing that small, dense LDL particles produce plaque at a much higher rate than large, buoyant LDL particles. So when you have a high amount of small particles, which you can get this tested by the ion motility test at Quest Diagnostics. If you do that and you see that your LDL particle number is high, because you can have a lot of particles and they don't have a lot of cholesterol in them. So you may have a lower LDL cholesterol, but actually have a lot of particles. And a lot of those particles would be more likely to get lodged in your arterial or inside the arterial wall. So anyway, with just to mention for the audience, sorry, Bostin and Scott, if I'm boring you guys a little bit, but I just want to mention for the audience, if you see that your LDL cholesterol is 201, you don't really need to do this test anymore, these detailed tests about the LDL particle, all this stuff, because you're so high that it doesn't even matter at this point. This is dangerous. But if you were at like 100, then that would be interesting to know how many particles you have, to know if they're small and large and so on. Don't worry, guys. I'll be done soon. I'm just going to do one more. He has another test here, which was interesting. So he has this is a test of the proteins that are attached to some of these particles. Also interesting. He did great tests. The final thing I want to comment on is he does not have a genetic predisposition toward lipoprotein little a being high. Unless you're taking niacin and steroids or something like that. But usually it'll be over 40 or 50 if the person has the genetic predisposition. Bostin, I don't know if you ever heard of this before, but this is an independent risk factor for cardiovascular disease. Okay. I would have liked to see if this guy had also homocysteine calculated. I didn't see it here, but it may have been there. But anyway, this wasn't so comprehensive. I didn't want to be too boring, but hopefully it was a little useful. So
well, we should fucking get my full panel and have you review that shit. You'll be like, oh my God, your shit is terrible.
Why? You've never actually gotten anything that I've asked you to get tested.
You would literally sit there for 5 hours saying everything's trash.
That's not true. Your cholesterol is low, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't know where you got that from. I never even checked my cholesterol.
What?
I mean, I get it. I get it on the blood work, but I don't even look because I don't really fast.
I think I've seen your blood work before and the cholesterol is a bit low. But by the way, it has nothing to do with fasting. Only the triglycerides get affected by fasting.
Oh, okay.
How's your blood work, Scott? Do you have good cholesterol?
Good. Yeah. No, everything comes through pretty good. I mean, I haven't had it done since it's been about 8 months ago, but I haven't been on anything. I've been just on TRT in the past 8 months. So,
wow.
Yeah.
How come?
Yeah.
Not prepared for the show?
No, trying to start a family. So I'm actually trying to stay fertile.
Oh,
so
great.
it's funny we were talking about that earlier. I actually worked with Bostin on that a little bit too. He's telling me that I'm good to just get on a cycle, but I don't know. Mentally, I just feel like I just want to stay on TRT. I don't know.
You probably are, but that's great news. Are you married?
Engaged. We've been together for 7 years. We've been engaged the past 3 years. So.
Oh, fantastic! One of those long engagements.
Yeah.
Women get annoyed with that stuff.
Yeah, dude, it's her fault.
All right, guys. So we'll go through some questions. So Carved Out of Stone, our long-term listener and a defender of the channel, wonderful guy. He said, I wonder what boss, this is a really interesting question. He said, bodybuilding Deadpool articles were popular back in the 90s to 2000s, in which people made speculative bets on who would die next in the bodybuilding world. Who is your top 3 people in the industry most likely to visit the big gym in the sky sometime soon? What? I have nothing to say, honestly.
Way. Look, I'm an honest guy, but there is no way I'm going to put a death wish on anyone. There's no way.
Exactly. Stone is a nice guy. He's just a little rough with the comments.
I would never say anyone's going to pass, and I guarantee you the 3 people that pass next are going to be unexpected, and it's going to be a shocker because Luke Sandow was a shocker, right? Dallas McCarver was a shocker. I mean, young, looked great on the outside. It's just you can never put a death wish on anyone. Fuck that.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, in defense of Stone, I don't think he was asking for a death wish, but I think Dallas also was not a shocker, right? We saw
I don't think Dallas was a shocker, honestly. When
it wasn't a shocker, but it's a shocker to me. It definitely hit home to me because he was a year older than me. You know what I mean? Like it affected me differently. Like if a guy that's in his 50s dies of a heart attack, it's like, okay, I could see that happening. You know, he used gear for all these years. But when a guy dies when he's 26 years old, like that hit hard to me. You know what I mean? Like I was like, wow.
No, you're right. Actually, we would have never. Nobody's ever died that young before in bodybuilding.
Yeah. You hope not, at least.
Except for Palumbo.
My dad told me that. When my dad told me that, I didn't believe it.
Your dad told you about Dallas dying first?
He was sitting in my dad was on vacation here. I get up out of bed and he's like, "Son, did you know that Dallas passed away?" And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, I think Rich and then Dallas dying changed bodybuilding because they were so public.
Yeah, everyone got scared about their health and shit for sure.
They were at the same time, weren't they? Like within a few weeks of each other.
A week, yeah.
Week, wow. Well, one thing, and also note that 3 people died, I think, in the last month that nobody would have expected. One of Milos's clients died from a seizure. Somebody else died. So it seems like usually it's not somebody you can predict. There used to be lists that I saw people do on Get Big. Get Big is the forum that people used to do this on, and they used to bet on people die. They seem to want people to die. It was really like a negative.
That forum is fucked up.
Yeah, it's a really weird forum. But I think also probably the next people that die we won't expect coming, and they'll probably be most likely people between 40 and 50 that are still a bit big. Those are the people that keep dying the most. But there was also that there's a few people that died in their 40s and 50s recently also in the last 6 months. Palumbo keeps making videos on it. His channel's become like this.
It does.
Talking about people dying.
I know. I feel like every post I see on his Instagram is like somebody dying. I don't even look at his stuff anymore.
Really scary.
Not for that reason, but
actually, that's one of the next questions. Maybe I should ask about it now. So T3, I want to ask this, Boston, because a lot of people commented when you and I did that coach list last time. People didn't know because they know that you're fond of Dave, and they didn't know why we were mentioning some things about Dave. So T3 Swole says, did Bostin and Dave Palumbo have a fallout? Should I answer this, Boston?
I mean, let's see your perspective, because I like, if Dave still texted me to this day, I would be nice and respond to him. So it's not like we hate each other, you know what I mean? But I'm not gonna. I lost a lot of respect for him, but I'm not gonna, ghost on him if he ever asks me a question or hit me up. That's where our relationship's at.
Yeah, I think Boston, you like Dave a lot, and I don't think Dave and Boston had any falling out. I'll just tell the audience what happened exactly. Is just simply that they were cool with each other, And Dave asked Boston to stop coming on my show, and Boston refused, and that was the issue. That's the only issue that they've had.
And me and Dave went back and forth about that, and I think after I talked to him for a while, he started to understand that he did overreact. Like he could tell, like with the verbatim, like at the end of that conversation, he calmed down a little bit because it was like a day after. But I mean, we haven't talked really at all. Just a couple texts since then. And
well, what was his issue with you being on the show?
Because Leo and him had a falling out because I don't know if you saw. I think I brought it up.
It was before the falling out, though.
Well, no, you guys had gotten the argument about Ameen.
Oh, it was after that?
Yeah, it was after that. So when you guys had that thing about Ameen, and then I guess you mentioned something about he was mad about that. You mentioned something about his thyroid cancer, I think, right?
No. So the day that I went on his show and he surprised me with the Ameen thing, that day I asked you about it. And you were like, I didn't want to tell you about this, but... Yeah, so it was before that. But basically, Dave thinks that my channel stole his channel's like ideas or something.
What, bodybuilding?
I mean, the funny thing is that I actually the reason he has podcasts is because he asked me what should I do with the channel. I was like, do a podcast like me. So he started. It's the opposite. I didn't steal anything. I just admired him, and I didn't mean to. I was very fond of him, but he thought that like I was stealing his audience or something. So he started getting jealous. He asked Greg and him and Lee Priest not to come on my show. Most of them stopped coming. Boston's the only one who refused to ditch me. He wasn't angry at Dave. He just didn't want to ditch me for no reason.
Yeah.
Which is extremely loyal. Boston was my first guest on the show, by the way, from the very beginning. So he helped me so much with the show. And for this. So anyway, basically that's the issue. And then personally, I hate Dave. I used to like Dave a lot, and I hate Dave. Actually, the first time I started being suspicious about Dave's ethical character was because Dave used to call me like for an hour on the phone all the time, ask me questions and stuff like that. By the way, Dave all the time asked me for biological advice. He asked me to formulate supplements for him. All this while he was telling Boston not to come on my show. But he used to call me on the phone and talk to me sometimes. And one time when I first found out Boston was in kidney failure, actually, I talked to Dave on the phone. It was like 11 p.m. And I was like, Dave, Boston has kidney failure. We have to do an intervention and convince Boston to like, we have to do something. And Dave, I remember I was shocked. Dave was like, yeah, he's going to die. And I was like, no, we have to get him to stop. Yeah, he said, well, yeah, if he stops using everything and loses all the weight and everything, he'll survive, but he's never going to stop. So I realized at that moment that this guy who has been advising Boston for 10 years knows Boston's going to die or thinks that Boston's going to die. And he's like, fuck it. And that's when I was like, wait a minute.
That's how Dave is, though. He doesn't have sympathy for others.
He's a reptile. Like, he cares about nobody. I don't even know if he cares about his kids. Look what he's...
I knew that about him, because I've actually brought up, people to Dave that I thought Dave was cool with, and he wrote him off too. So I knew Dave was like that, but I didn't hold that against him because I knew that was just his personality, where he's not really a sympathetic person, But yeah, I think that's another reason why his channel is not doing as well, is because people are starting to see through that. He's like promoting stuff like way too overboard, and it's kind of, the channel's kind of fallen off a little bit.
I mean, I was a fan of his channel for a while, but there was really not a lot of options back then, not a lot of like decent coverage. So I would watch his stuff, and then it got to the point where his coverage was just not very good. He's very biased on things, and it kind of just turned into like a little bit of a clown show on like, some of his shows too,
Yeah,
he's very biased. He's very biased.
Yeah, very, very. I was like, that's the thing. It's like people want to cover bodybuilding, but it's like they're so biased. It just, once you become biased on this, then you can't really have like, you're just not reputable anymore,
I never knew he was. I mean, I fell for everything because I don't know anything about bodybuilding. So I was like, Bob Chick is like just trying to destroy this guy. Sean Ray's trying to destroy this guy. He's like an angel. He's a wonderful. Dave's wonderful. Later, I find out that everybody in bodybuilding hates him, and he's known for being like a ratty, sneaky kind of character. Also, he never mentions, by the way, that he always says, I went to prison selling drugs. No, you went to prison selling fake drugs. You knew it was fake drugs. I even talked to him on the phone about it. Because I thought somebody told me that he might have been a rat or whatever. So one day when he called me, I was like, hey, why did you only go for 6 months? And did you talk or what? Boston, how I am. So I really did tell him that. And he was like, no, it was because it was fake growth hormone. So I was like, oh, It was fake. So then, but you know it's fake, bro.
It was counterfeit.
Counterfeit, yeah. So
that's the same shit that Rich Piana was selling.
And then the thing is, when I was on his show and he was like trying to get me to be okay with Ameen telling people that they can't get ibogaine. My issue with Ameen was that he was telling people that the ibogaine source that he gets it from, Iboga World, which is a website which I get it from, and Ameen gets it from. He was telling my clients that that's not real. I'm the only guy that has ibogaine. You have to buy it from me. So one guy in the East Coast died while trying to save $3,000 to pay Ameen. The ibogaine actually cost $300. So the guy had $2,000, Ameen rejected, and the guy died of an overdose. So for me as an ex-addict, and my parents are addicts and my whole family's addicts, I take this real seriously. When I was on Dave's show, I never realized, man, how unethical is that shit? Dave is actually an ex-addict too. He has a tattoo on his arm telling him never to inject again, where he used to inject. The guy has he doesn't care about anything. And I've begun to be suspicious. He was wearing Ameen's shirt the other day. I've begun to be suspicious. Maybe Ameen is paying him because the guy cares so much about money.
Dude, those videos that they do promoting ibogaine, he has to be doing something for him.
Yeah, Ameen is sort of like, anyway, well, I don't want to be too negative. Let's move on to another question. So Eustace1998 says, a question for Boston. How is Mirtazapine going for your appetite? We haven't heard an update. Leo and you said it was the strongest appetite stimulant you can take, and hella bodybuilders use it. And does your forum have a source for it? I couldn't find it on Clear Sky.
Okay,
yeah, update them. That day that you came on the show, there was a day that Boston came and barely talked. I thought Boston was upset. I messaged him after. I was like, bro, what's wrong? He's like, oh, it's that Mirtazapine killed me.
Dude, that shit turned me into literally, because it's an antidepressant drug. It turned me into a zombie. I didn't give a fuck about anything. I was like a potato. I didn't get any appetite stimulation from it, and it's probably because I'm in kidney failure. But I do know people that like it and had great success with it. But I will never take that again. And remember, I took it one day. I'm like, if I feel like this again, I'm not going to do it again. I took it for 2 days. I'm like, maybe this is like a hoax. I took it a third day, and it kept getting worse and worse. So I was like, after the third day, I said, I will never touch this again.
So I didn't say it was the strongest appetite suppressant. It is stimulant. It's the strongest serotonergic appetite stimulant, or it is the most, of all the SSRIs and non-standard SSRIs, it's the one most associated with weight gain. So it causes a lot of stimulation of hunger. But I don't think there's any appetite stimulant as strong as weed, to be honest with you. I've never experienced anything stronger than marijuana. Have you guys?
That's why Chad Nichols has this guy who does Marinol, but it's really hard to get.
True. Yeah, that's related. Interesting.
I've never tried anything personally for that, but weed is always, the go-to.
You wouldn't want to, right? Do you try not to eat a lot so you can keep your waist, do you try to keep your portion smaller?
No. Right now I'm taking 2 years off, so I'm just trying to grow. And I'm eating a good amount of food. My appetite isn't great, but I don't really play around with these things. I don't know. I just don't know if they even work or not, but you're hungry, just smoke a little weed and eat your meal, you know?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. For me, I can barely control the effects of marijuana on hunger. It's too strong for me.
Yeah, I don't do it on prep though.
I smoked today before Hibachi.
So you can get your money's worth?
Yeah, I ate a bunch, dude.
All right, so Ishtiaq says, I think you mentioned people on AAS would rarely ever get sick. Could you go into a bit more detail and ask Boston and Scott about whether they've fallen ill while on AAS, or did they notice that it helped them tremendously to not fall sick? Thanks. So do you guys notice this? Well, Boston, you probably don't notice because you've been on AAS since you became an adult. Before?
I think I understand the question, though. Does he saying, do I get sick when I come off or come back on?
No, what he's saying is that when people go on steroids, they tend to get sick less often.
Yeah, I would say that's true because every time I come off, I get sick.
Oh, interesting.
Me personally, no. I don't think I have no difference, no.
So basically what happens is that androgens in general, there's a gender difference in how the immune system functions. Estrogens are associated with TH2, T helper 2 cell-driven immune function, meaning that estrogens are associated with, and that's the kind of TH2 immune-driven function. Sorry, guys, I have the brain fog because of the cerebral lysin, but that kind of TH2-driven immune function is associated with autoimmune conditions. TH1-driven immune function is associated with atherosclerosis, plaque, as well as better responses to foreign antigens like viruses or things like that, or as well as bacteria. So men are more resistant in general to bacteria and things like that than women. And when you increase your androgen level, you should be more resistant to that kind of infection, but more likely to get plaque, for example, because of the way your immune system is functioning. So I've noticed that personally. And when I went off androgens completely is when I developed my autoimmune condition, Crohn's disease. So I had a massive change from going high testosterone levels to nearly none and higher estrogen levels, you know? So it happened to me for sure. Okay, moving on. Origami Wizard says, why do people in the bodybuilding space... Well, I'll skip this one. Okay, so I'll skip this one too. New Cold says, what bodybuilder would you like to see make a comeback on stage? What do you think about Dana Lynn Bailey making a comeback? Who is Dana Lynn? Who is she?
She won the Physique Olympia back in the day.
Oh, really?
Women's Physique, yeah. In like probably maybe 5 years ago.
She won it in 2014.
Yeah.
I've recently seen her on like I don't know which YouTube channel it is, but they keep filming themselves in a gym.
Redcon 1.
There's something about her when she speaks that like puts my hair on edge. Like there's something unnerving, like the overconfidence or something. It's something.
She's a phony, dude. She claims natty.
What? Oh, someone asked me that recently. Yeah, someone said, "Do you think she's on steroids?" I said, "Of course she was on steroids."
Dude, Ariella and her went back and forth one time because Ariella had called her out on a post or whatever. Dude, she literally will go as far as this. She's like, steroids are bad for you. They make female men manly. They lose my hair. She's like, I want to keep my hair. Like literally bashes steroids, dude. There's no way she was 100% natural at the Olympia. Maybe in the off season she doesn't take anything, but she 100% takes some. Women do not get that hard. You know, right?
Wait, no. If she won the Physique Olympia, she cannot be natural. For God's sake.
No, but they can hard, yeah.
Wow, I can't believe there's someone that much of a fake natty, and that's unbelievable. I can't believe I didn't know this. Well, that's ridiculous. We should put her on blast. That liars should not be supported. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, her husband contacted me in 2014 and said if Dana doesn't win the Olympia, because they want to play the political card, he called me all upset because we called her out on being natty. He's like, if she doesn't win the Olympia, I want to do a video where we all go into a testing center and get her tested for steroids. And I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it. I was like, I'll do it. And I never heard back from him.
What the hell? You can't compete in the Mr. Olympia and be in the top 5 in any division and be natural, for God's sake.
Bikini. I mean, like.
And let's be honest, her genetics are not even that great.
I don't know what she looks like.
I mean, the sport's changed. I don't think she's going to do very well if she comes back. But.
Oh, really? Was it less competitive?
Yeah, I mean, it's like it was a newer division back then. So like like men's physique has evolved, classic physique has evolved. It's better. It's more competitive. The physiques are better, and I just think it's changed so much since 2014 that she probably won't do well. These people, they don't realize that like when they've been gone this long, like this sport changes a lot, especially in these divisions that are new.
Who would you guys want to see do a comeback though? We didn't answer the question.
I'd like to see myself come back if I ever got healthy.
I'm gonna go with nobody. I feel like these bodybuilders make these comebacks, and it's like just stay. Like it's not good, man. Stay at home.
The most cringiest one was Kevin Larone.
No. Flex Wheeler, man, doing classic. Do you see that one? Oh my God. Why would they? I don't understand it one bit.
Dude, he had a kidney transplant too. Like he risks a lot with his health.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he ended up losing his leg like a year later.
Yeah. But it's like you see these guys. I mean, you look at Flex Wheeler, you think about his iconic shots, and you see him in classic physique at that age looking like complete shit. I don't know why they even want to do that.
Well, Flex Wheeler was interesting because at least we got to understand how his body used to be so round. Because when you saw him in classic physique or whatever he was in, you could see all the scar tissue in his arms from all that.
His arms were he must have been shooting the hell out of those because there was so much scar tissue in his arms.
I never seen anybody with that much scar tissue before.
It looked terrible though.
Unbelievable. So that was interesting for me. And then Levroni basically made a huge social media following by his comeback, even though, he disappointed everyone.
It helped his company too.
Yeah, that was a business move. At least he didn't look nearly as bad as Flex Wheeler did.
Those legs, though, man, his legs were. Woo.
Has anyone done a comeback in sports that went well in any sport? I mean,
Jay Cutler.
It was his comeback good?
He never retired, but he lost and then won.
Yeah, but
that wasn't a comeback.
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna say Floyd Mayweather this weekend. He's gonna knock out Logan Paul.
Oh, you know, is it this weekend?
Yes, dude. I'm watching that shit for sure.
Yeah, he's gonna knock him out, huh? He's got to knock him out.
Yeah, he has to.
If he flops like just for money, I'm gonna die.
So there's a boxer who did a great comeback, George Foreman. He came back years later, like beat the shit out of everybody, and then became a grill master. So he did that. But generally, I think in sports, if you stop doing it for long enough, you can't come back. Maybe in MMA and fighting they do, though. I've heard George St. Pierre might come back or something like that as well.
Well, people want like Kai Green to come back, but he's been like telling people he's going to come back to Olympia for years, but he just does it for the attention.
That's gotten so old.
It's been annoying. Every year he does it. It's just like he obviously just wants attention, and people still talk about him. Like, what would Kai Green place in Olympia this year? It's like, who cares? He's not there.
He takes pictures at like with like the whole head judging crew and like the guys of the Olympia, like acting like he's signing a contract. Always.
I know he likes the attention.
He's such a BS artist. I don't know how people like don't see.
100%.
I see right through that guy's bullshit for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so BNK says how to implement Lantus for gaining mass but not lose insulin sensitivity. He said amounts, duration, etc. What do you guys think? Scott, I don't think you use Lantus, do you?
No.
Scott has never used any of these.
I don't even know what that is.
It would benefit Scott to use Lantus like a high dose on his leg day, though, because that's the body part he's trying to bring up.
Yeah, certainly.
So let's say if somebody doesn't have any blood sugar issues, Leo, because if somebody has blood sugar issues, I would say use Lantus morning and night, right? And when I'm saying blood sugar issues, I'm not
trying to control your blood sugar, basically.
Yeah, I'm not saying like the guy that was tripping out, a couple weeks ago, the blood sugar was 100. Yeah, you have high blood sugars, but if your blood sugars are fine, I wouldn't even use Lantus except once a week on a weak body part hypersaturation. That was the best time I ever grew, was when I worked with Mike Arnold and he had me do 100 units of Lantus in the morning, and I would train later in the day. And dude, the pumps and the fullness were crazy on that stuff, and it really helped you engage that weak body part. So I would say only use it one time a week at a very high dose.
That's actually great advice. I was going to say that. So just for you guys to know in general about drugs, the longer a drug stays in your system, the more your body adapts to it. So long-acting drugs have more side effects in terms of your body adapting. So like if you're using insulin, you don't want to become insulin insensitive, use a shorter-acting insulin. But again, having insulin across the day high will be great for your growth. So Boston's solution is a great one, I think. Using it once a week, something like that.
Just once a week, because there's coaches out there that do it every day, and their guys just get fat. They stop feeling the insulin. They get sluggish. They get lethargic. They put on a lot of water. If you do it once a week, so what I would do is I would do it once a week, and on those weeks, on that day, I would do it once a week. On that day, I would lower the dietary fat in the diet, and I would bump the carbs up by like 50%.
You're going to absorb everything.
Really helped.
Exactly. Okay, so this is a great question. So Tim Tenevsky asks, Scott, what's the craziest cycle Scott has done? Since you've never done anything, let's find out what you have done.
I saw this question. I was like, these guys are going to be seriously disappointed. Crazy. There's nothing crazy about anything that I've done. I mean, like in the off season, I'll run. Last off season, I was actually just looking at it. Last off season, I ran 600 milligrams of test, 600 milligrams of DECA, and 600 milligrams of EQ. And I mean, my first 2 years as a pro, my first coach as a pro that I had no idea what he was doing. He had me running 250 milligrams of test my first 2 years as a pro.
And what else?
Just that.
What do you mean just that? You were just taking...
Just 250 milligrams.
What are you, black? You're not black.
Test, man.
I don't understand.
Dude, when I finally talked to somebody that he was like, they could not believe how well I was doing too in taking that. It's basically just like, replacing my natural testosterone with testosterone.
I don't understand. So the most you've ever used was 600, 600, and 600?
No, that was
not pre-contest, but on the off season.
That was my off season last year. I've ran a test up to 1,000 milligrams, but not for very long. And that was for one off season. But with that, I probably ran NPP, like maybe 300 milligrams. But that was it.
Wow. So you take cycles as if you're not a pro, honestly. Like,
yeah, I know. That's why I see his cycles. I talked to Boston. I'm like, man, people are going to be seriously disappointed, you know?
So you have a lot of gains that you have not accessed at all. There's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, I told you I've been on TRT for the past 8 months now. But now that I'm making this transition to classic, I still won't do anything crazy, obviously. But we might bump things up a little bit more crazy.
How far are you from your weight limit?
So I weighed in. My weight limit was 192. I weighed in at 185 with clothes on. Are
you tall?
Just over 5'7".
Oh, interesting. So you are close to the weight limit then. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But you could go to 212, I guess, eventually.
Yeah, I could.
You would need to bump that gear. how much growth hormone? How much growth hormone are you running?
Right now?
No, just like the highest.
I've ran up to 7 for like a short period of time, but this was actually just in this off season though, because I was running such low test. But usually I'll just run like 4 IUs of growth.
And then insulin, how much? Like 5 pre and post?
Yeah, but that's just this past off season. So I've never ran that in prep.
So you'll continue getting a lot more development when you go up to 3 grams or so. Everybody does.
Yeah, I'm hoping that plus the fact that it's been so long since I've really been on anything that I'm going to get like those newbie gains again, you know?
That's crazy. You really run low stuff. You know, there are people, gym rats, that are running triple what you do.
I know.
They don't look like they work out.
I know. It's crazy. People give me a hard time though, because I tell people I don't think a lot of these people should be taking steroids. And
that's the point of the Rate My Genetics section. That's what I'm trying to figure. I'm trying to tell some people you probably shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I personally think that if you're not aspiring or if you don't have the genetics to be a pro bodybuilder or, if you're not in the I turned pro natural too, but granted it was men's physique. And so it's different, obviously. It's not bodybuilding, but I turned pro natural and I send these guys these pictures of me natural, and I was like, that are talking shit, thinking that I run all this stuff and thinking that I actually was lying about turning pro natural. And I'm like, when I was natural.
Any or any stimulants?
No, nothing.
So he's a black guy in a white guy's skin. That's what it is. You have black guy genetics.
Just because I had to say it, just because you're saying these genetics, it's so funny. You look at the top 5 of every show that I do, I'm the only white dude.
Are you really? Yeah. It's
always. It's like 4 other black dudes and Scott.
Didn't you say that you don't go flat either on no carbs?
Yeah, no, I don't.
Yeah, see, hey, he has good muscle bellies. He wouldn't let me see what he looked like when we trained though, Leo. He wouldn't tell me. He was wearing like a baggy ass
I'm always hoodied up, bro. I'm
like, let me see your stomach. He's like, no.
Was he wearing blue? He was wearing blue sweater from last week. Blue sweater that everybody noticed. Okay, so Viva La Ethan says, does Boston know why Cody Lewis quit bodybuilding? Was that the really talented guy
No, me and Cody actually became friends. He lived close to me when I lived in California. Dude, he got so burnt out. He worked with a coach, the guy that owns Painless Pumps. His name is Steve DeLuca. Yeah, I don't know if you heard of him, but he's a major con artist, Steve DeLuca. But anyway,
Painless Pumps is a con.
Steve had him on, dude. Me and Cody went out to IHOP, and he told me what he did for his cycle with Steve DeLuca, and my jaw dropped because at that time I never even ran high gear, right? I literally, because this was before I did the contra, I literally couldn't believe how much shit this kid was pinning. Dude, he was telling me the craziest stories. I've never heard anything as crazy. And he literally got burnt out of bodybuilding. His dad ended up knocking out Steve DeLuca backstage at the North Americans.
Holy crap. I've never heard this.
That was the year that Nick Trigilli did it. And that was the year that Dallas McCarver won and went pro. Same year.
Wow. So he was one of the like promising athletes in bodybuilding.
Yeah, so Cody Lewis is probably the most hardcore bodybuilder I've ever seen. Like crazy mentally. Like nobody's as crazy as Cody. Like he got in trouble with the law. Like he's probably killed people. He's been in jail. No, I'm serious. Like the kid's crazy.
Wow, interesting.
Absolutely nuts. But yeah, he's and he hit me up maybe like a year ago. You know, asked me some questions about some stuff, and we haven't really been close since. But like, yeah, dude, he was the most intense bodybuilder I've ever met.
Well, I'd love to get him on the show.
Go look at Cody Lewis YouTube videos. You'll be like, what the fuck? He was 19, just a menace, dude.
I want to get him on the show now. Interesting. Okay, so that hipster says...
I could probably make it happen if you wanted to.
Yeah, let's get him on. He sounds really interesting. Yeah, you excited me. Okay, so that hipster says, question for Boston. Does he know strongman cycles? What would Eddie Hall's cycle look like? Have you ever coached a strongman or seen what they do?
I work with a few powerlifters, okay? And I'll tell you what, they run a lot because they're not worried about eating clean food every 2 to 3 hours. They're eating lots of junk, most of these guys. So a lot of orals, I'll tell you one thing, a lot of tests and a lot of orals, a lot of androgens, a lot of tests, a lot of DECA. They don't touch DHT drugs. It's a lot of tests, DECA, D-ball.
Except Halo tests.
All that stuff.
Exactly. That's what I see too. Well, I don't know what strongmen take, but what I hear from powerlifters is that strongmen take more than them. Like usually.
Oh, I thought you were talking about powerlifting. I don't work with any strongmen. I'm talking about powerlifting cycles, but I figured it would be similar.
Strongmen tend to take like what super heavyweight bench pressers would take, which is the highest amount generally. Yeah. And they tend to just not give a crap. So they take everything, under the sun. So they tend to like anadrol, halotestin, testosterone.
In Leo, high blood pressure really must be a genetic thing too, because these guys' blood pressure has to be fucking outrageous, and these guys are not getting kidney failure.
Well, keep in mind they're not dehydrating, right? They're never usually. I mean, maybe they dehydrate before competitions if they're not super heavyweights, but they tend not to dehydrate. But it is genetic. Like Scott Mendelson doesn't have kidneys.
If somebody has kidneys of steel, they're not going to fuck it up with high blood pressure, because if that's the case, these guys would all be failing.
Yeah, I mean, it helps them to have high blood pressure, to be stronger. That's true. Yes, some of them, I mean, what I know from Scott, for example, is he has unusually good kidneys. I mean,
yeah, I'd love to see what his creatinine is, because I saw him at Gold's Venice. There's no way his blood pressure was low. There's no way. He was like a tomato.
His blood is a tomato, exactly. Lucy always comments on that. Yeah, he's like red.
There's no way that guy... Yeah.
That's so true. Okay. So Ibogaine says, if somebody was in the middle of an intermediate hardcore cycle and then was to get arrested and go to prison or whatever scenario where they had to immediately stop taking the AAS cold turkey, what would be the outcomes?
They would shrivel up so quick.
Huh?
All right, like let's say if I got arrested, and let's just use me as an example, okay? This is exactly what would happen to me. I would, first of all, I wouldn't diet because I'm all or nothing. I'm like Musclehead. I talked to him on the phone today, and he's like, wants to do keto and jelly, eats like eggs and chicken. Dude, fuck that. Like he gets all the high protein. I would eat whatever I wanted, and I would be didn't want to look at myself, but I would become skinny fat. My weight would probably stay the same. I'd probably stay 250 because I've done this before. And I would just get super fat.
What do you think, Scott?
Have
you ever had to stop suddenly?
No.
Okay. So I'll this has actually happened to me, as Boston knows. So I was once on a small cycle and I got imprisoned. And when I went to, so this is the interesting thing, Boston, I didn't turn skinny fat. So I think it'll depend on what happens to you when you go to jail or prison. When I went into jail, I became really hardcore and I was getting in fights every day. So I think it was really weird. Listen, so I had no hypogonadism. My balls immediately got filled out. My testosterone was normal. In fact, I had to masturbate and stuff when I was in my cell later at night. My testosterone levels were very high. And I think it was because I was not being a beta male. And I guess if you're getting beaten up every day, it would probably be the opposite. But honestly,
Middle Eastern genetics.
I swear I recovered.
Always horny.
No, I recovered better than when I stopped, for example, randomly 2 years ago. Like I recovered really well, but I think it was because of the high testosterone environment. You're fighting for your life every day. You know, it's very dangerous and stuff like that.
Were you training in there?
Yeah, so that's the funny thing you're mentioning, Musclehead. So I was drinking 20 bottles of milk a day because I was training 4 hours a day with the guys, the black guys always training and they're working out. And the Mexicans work out too, but the Mexicans, they do burpees and things like that, which is a little different. We were doing like dips all day for a few hours. And so I was drinking like 20 cartons of milk. I would trade everybody and get as much milk as I could. I wasn't eating ramen or anything like that. And I was trying to be as big as I could. So I lost most of my definition, but my arms stayed like 17 inches or something. A little bit fat. And I was strong as hell, like really strong.
Milk will make you strong, but I would shit my brains out.
I was. But the worst, and I was, honestly, the gas was horrible, but people were complaining. It was really interesting. So, but I was going to mention one thing though. One thing that happened to me though, I was so stressed out, my hair just started like falling out of my head. I don't know if it was because I stopped using the hormones or the cortisol levels, but like literally I would grab tufts of hair out. And when I got released later, my hair came back to normal, but I was so stressed out, it was like falling out everywhere. It was scaring the hell out of me. I noticed one day when a guy came and he's like, I can see the back of your head. I was like, what? So, but we have no mirrors. So I was having everybody come and check my hair. Anyway. So it's. I bet this guy didn't know that we'd have a proper answer for that. Anyway, so A. Hartwell says, do people at gyms ever annoy or interrupt your workouts for advice regarding bodybuilding? Well, this definitely never happened to me in my life. But what about you guys?
I'll answer that first.
People don't really come up to me in the gym. Like I have this face on that people just don't want to be a part of. I mean, I've had some people like ask me questions here and there, but it doesn't happen that often. I think people just know that I kind of want to be left alone.
How about at gyms that people know you, like the super gym?
Yeah. It depends. If I'm in the off season, like it's okay. I'm good. You can come talk to me. But if I'm in prep, just don't come near me.
Yeah, that's what I mean though. In the off season, when you were training at the super gym, like you didn't really get much people talking to you, no?
No, I do. Like, the gym that I'm at now, like people come up and talk to me, but they make sure they do it at a good time. Like when I'm between sets, so, I'll have a conversation.
Wait, do you have like a Guy Sister Nino type of, do you support Guy's actions recently? What do you think about
that? Yes and no. I don't know. I'm looking at it. I think he was being a little crazy. It's funny you bring that up because I was watching that too. But I mean, when people like are near me and like doing that, it definitely annoys the hell out of me. But it also looks like they were kind of far away from him. And I mean, I wouldn't see that like in my set. I would see it like if I was getting ready for it. I certainly wouldn't stop in the middle of my set to try to fight them. I mean, that was a little bit ridiculous.
But that little man knew he was on camera. He wanted to try to show off.
Well, this is the thing I wanted to ask. I wanted to post this question. See, I want to comment on things sometimes, but I don't want people to just think that I'm an asshole. So he clearly posted that video because he thought people were going to side with him. Like people were going to think like, oh, look at Guy. He's a tough guy. He got in a fight mid-set. But like it ended up reversing it. Like the whole internet just trashed him.
Yeah, they got really upset.
They did.
I to be honest, I feel for Guy. I like the guy a lot. I really like him. I like the fact that he uses dip and he spits on camera. I like everything about the guy, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I also feel, I've never done that personally, but like I get annoyed when I'm doing something serious and people are laughing around.
Me too.
I don't like that, you know?
Me too.
But Boston, the thing is, though, people know the hell out of you. So do people come to you? You must be a celebrity in every gym you go to.
This is a funny question. So I live in Spring Hill. It's not a bodybuilding atmosphere over here in Spring Hill. It's very normal. It's very elderly. It's an elder area. So over here, I don't really get bothered that much, except if I go like me and Scott, we train at the Crunch. And like
I'm seeing the same thing.
That gym is pretty like commercialized, so like I will get sometimes, but I tell you what, when I lived in Orlando, Leo, and I went to like Gold's in Orlando, and that was when I was doing all those crazy videos, injecting myself on camera and just being a jackass.
Yeah,
dude, I had so many fucking people. I couldn't even work out sometimes. Where I started going to the gym, no joke, at like 2-3 a.m. in the morning. Because when I would go during prep, I'm a nice guy. It's hard for me to say no. People would just be like blowing me up in the gym, just coming up to me, hey, are you Team 3cc? And it would just drive me crazy. So, and that's another reason why I stopped going to shows for my clients, is because like I'm a very social person. Like when people start talking to me, like I'm very interactive, and I would talk to all these people and I would miss the show. And I wouldn't be doing my job properly with my clients. So that's why I always tell my clients I'm better off at home.
Except when you go to shows and Jerry Ward's there, then you run away.
Oh yeah, Jerry Ward.
All right, so
that guy is.
That's an inside joke. So Schlevin says we all would still like to hear why Trigili failed with his clinic. LOL, I'm betting he was trying to push D-ball scripts and shit like that. We don't know. Although I learned some interesting things from Boston. I found out that the guy that he was doing his clinic with was also separately like a slight con man. So I think two con men met each other and they didn't know about each other, and they tried to outcon each other, and then exploded.
They tried to outcon each other, and Trigili lost the battle.
That's true. And they were prescribing Dianabol and stuff like that, and Anadrol and stuff. So, but I don't think that's the reason. I think that they are trying. Boston's right. They tried to outcon each other.
It was a money thing for sure.
By the way, Trigili had no idea about the guy's reputation. Trigili was so happy going there. It was so funny. Anyway, Nico Hall says we'll skip this one. Fezur says, oh shit, Scott Dennis is a beast. Ask Boston if he ever did those moon rocks, the MDMA. Got some laying around from the same source. I
haven't done them yet, but I need to do them soon. But I want to do them up the ass, like you said.
Oh my god.
Will it help me? Hey, will it help my orgasms if I put it up my ass?
I think it might turn you gay. It might do some weird stuff to you, because you're gonna start getting some sensations there. Honestly, there's a local sensation. Like,
then I'm gonna try that shit. You're getting me curious.
Like, okay, I don't know if this is too detailed, but girls' asses will start to like pulsate. When you, I swear, so it's gonna happen to you too.
I'm definitely trying that shit.
Your asshole's gonna be pulsating. That's a dangerous one. Okay, so Nate No Limit says Boston would be interested to hear your dosing protocol for Frag 176191 in a pre-contest scenario. You touched on briefly on the last podcast, as I believe your mom had success running it. Also, your thoughts on Tren Hex and best application of body. Well, let's skip Tren Hex. What do you think about, what's the dosing that you use for Frag?
Okay, so for pre-contest, you do 250 mcgs before any exercise. So before your fasted cardio, before your workout. If you do 2 cardio sessions a day and you work out, do 250 3 times a day. If you if you do cardio in the morning and then train at night, do it only prior to exercise on an empty stomach. So 250 to 500 mcgs prior to activity.
I want to try that. Have you ever tried that? Well, Scott hasn't tried anything. We stop asking Scott.
I don't even know what that is. I'm like,
he hasn't even tried peptides. Dude, he's gonna respond amazing to IGF.
To everything, he's gonna respond to anything. He's barely used normal doses. I mean,
I'm gonna be in 212 next year. I'm gonna skip classic.
Yeah, I really could skip classic, I think. So Dean's Barbell asks, why is it that the beta blocker propranolol only gives me nightmares? I get that it crosses the blood-brain barrier, but it's only nightmares, never normal dreams. So I just want to comment on this real quick. So nobody knows why beta blockers cause nightmares. They usually cause this in people that have slightly low adrenaline naturally. So I don't get this. I never get usually don't get the nightmares because I have high adrenaline levels naturally. The question I want to ask this guy is, why are you using propranolol before bed? That's not, unless you have a heart problem, which is not what we tend to use it for on the channel. We tend to use it to protect yourself from the elevated heart rate after your workouts, or to affect your anxiety levels. Well, both of those things should be either around your workout or in the morning, right? Your adrenaline levels peak around 11 a.m. So this guy seems to be and propranolol is short acting. It's only going to affect you for about 8 hours.
I've talked to a couple guys that love taking propranolol. I can't take it. It makes me feel like way too out of it. But I heard a lot of guys love taking the propranolol before bed when they're on Tren.
Yeah, if you're on Tren, of course. Maybe that's what's going on with him. But I think then you wouldn't get nightmares because he'd have such high adrenaline levels. But if you want to avoid that, just get something that doesn't pass the blood-brain barrier. They're less likely to cause it, but they could still cause it, actually. So Matthew Giuseppe says, someone stated that you can't take Tren and Nolvadex at the same time because the two will make prolactin or progesterone or some type of gyno flare-up if trying to add Nolvadex to harden up for the last 6 weeks of prep with Arimidex. He wants to know I've never heard that. Have you heard that?
Floating around on the forums forever. That's the biggest crock of bullshit ever.
Yeah, it's complete bullshit.
They said, "Oh, Novadex raises your prolactin. You can't use it with Tren or Deca." I'm like, motherfuckers, looking. I wouldn't run Novadex at all, anyways, unless you're trying to have a kid or you're really close to a show and you're trying to dry out. In the off season, I don't think there's any benefits. But if you're trying to get dry out for a show, yeah. But I mean, yeah, of course you're going to be using Tren and Novadex at the same time.
So Novadex could make your body not sense the amount of estradiol it's a SERM. So it can make your body not sense the estradiol. And how does prolactin raise when you have higher estradiol and higher progesterone signaling? But if you're using an AI with it, this doesn't happen. And plus, to be honest with you, it doesn't happen either way. I use Novadex with Tren so many times, zero noticeable impact. Wes Andrews Fitness says, here's a question. What is so bad about Boston's genetics? I'm trying to develop a better eye for bodybuilding, and I've always thought he looked pretty good, but he claims he has bad genetics. So Boston, critique yourself, yeah?
It's funny. I actually think that I have actually pretty good genetics, but I've been a real retard about going about it the right way, and I've completely trashed my body. So I mean, the whole thing of going pro in bodybuilding back in the 80s, hell no, I don't have the physique for it, never. But if I was to keep going on the track that I was going, I mean, going pro these days is not hard, but it's like, what do you do when you're a pro? Are you going to be a good pro? And no. So I have like the genetics to get to that level, but I would never have the genetics to ever do anything as a pro. But yeah, I have a lot of weak body parts. My chest, now that it's tore, I'm definitely not a superior genetic, but I'm also not terrible, you know?
Boston, do you think people that are your height are just at disadvantage always in bodybuilding?
100%, yeah. I'm not using it as an excuse, but I'm just saying it takes longer.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, this is weird. So I'm average height. I'm 5'10", but I honestly think that people, and I know, Scott, you're 5'7", so this is a little critical, but I feel like people that your height, Scott, is what it is. Everybody's 5'7" in the Olympia, the top guys. It bothers me because you don't know they're 5'7", and they're huge. It's not like you have an aesthetic physique, it's different, but these guys are just like, they're as wide as they are tall. They're all blocks.
Yeah,
I feel like they should be penalized. I know it's a weird opinion, but I think that you should be penalized the more you go below 5'10", or there should be a short class.
I like Dennis.
There is. It's 212.
Yeah, but now all the 212, those guys should be in 212, like Bonac and all these guys. They came out of 212.
Yeah, but I mean, if you put the thing is, it's hard for someone that's 5'10" to fill out a physique like someone that's 5'7". If you put a guy with the same exact physique that's 5'10" and 5'7", that guy that's 5'10" is always going to look better because he's bigger, you know? It's more impressive, but it's building that physique at a taller height is harder than it is at a shorter height.
Yeah, I agree. Physiques that fill out at a larger frame always look better. The only problem is like they don't really reward it as much. Like, for instance, Dennis Wolf is a good example. Like he was 5'10", 6 feet, or 5'11", 6 feet. And like he was there, but I mean, I don't know if it was a political thing, but he never really did as well as he really could have, I don't think.
Well, remember when there was so I feel like, so I was kidding around about the penalizing, but what I feel like it should be is not a 212 class. It should be a short class and a 5'10" or above class. And the two of those should come out for the total Mr. Olympia. They should compete against each other like they used to.
That's how most other divisions are. NABA, PCA, it's all by height.
That's what I would think that would be better. That way it gives those guys, the taller guys, a chance to have because they can't, like you said, they can't compete as well with the shorter guys.
Well, look at it. Look at the guys at the Olympia. I mean, men's physique, it's all the Raymond Edwards, I want to say, is like 6'2". So that
he's 6'2".
Yeah, we're talking about bodybuilders now. Tell me any bodybuilders on the Olympia stage that are 6'2" right now. I don't think there's any of them.
No, there's nobody.
But that's rare. I mean, Raymond is like towering over everybody, even in men's physique, though. You know?
Agree, yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, when you're not a bodybuilder and you go to the Arnold and you see the bodybuilders in person, you're like, whoa, these guys are way shorter than I thought. You like when I saw Phil Heath, I didn't know he was 5'8" or something like that. He's I
was always disappointed when I went to the expos.
Yeah, you get surprised. So that's what I was thinking. Like if they get a chance to have, because Arnold was such a good representative of the sport because people wanted to look like him. Like he's good looking, he's tall, he's all these kind of things. Anyway, this is a funny question. So I think that people watch the Fuad podcast and they want us to answer the same questions. So I don't want to answer this one, but I want to bring it up because you just mentioned the injecting of the MDMA of the ass. So Brandon is wise says also, have any of you three had experiences with a woman trying to lick your butthole? And if so, how did the first time go? So I wanted to answer this really quickly. I never had this experience. Women don't try this with me because they assume that I'm not going to go along with it. But moreover, this is the thing. Don't trust the woman that you're with, because women always bring up to me that their ex is like that and they make fun of them. So don't trust those women. Once you break up with them, they're making fun of you behind your back. or marry the girl that you do it with.
I can honestly say I've never done that. I've eaten girls' asses, but I've never had my ass eaten by anyone. Fuck that.
We'll see what happens with the MDMA after. Anyway, douchey as fuck says, how long after...
Let Scott answer that question.
I didn't want to. You don't want to. He pleaded the fifth. Douchey as fuck says, how long after blasting or coming off is the longest you've still felt or had the effects from gear? Greg Valentilo's story about going to prison and still being on because of the sheer amount of stuff he injected and how long it took to clear. What are your thoughts on his story? Is it possible with enough scar tissue and injecting tens of mLs of gear that hormone levels could be elevated for a long time, period, even years later?
By the way, I want to say that Greg sent me a message yesterday on Facebook, Leo, and it was a very kind message about both me and you.
Yeah, he's been...
saying that he really likes what we're doing on the podcast and he's a big supporter no matter what, and he said he loves what we do and he watches our stuff.
Yeah, he does. And his girlfriend Lucy also, she's a very sweet lady. She sent him a couple of messages last 2 days. Yeah, I meant to reply, by the way. Sorry, Greg, I was busy.
I do believe him, by the way.
Yeah, he had like genuinely a scar tissue build. I don't know if years, but a while.
He said he would do a full vial of test prop a day in his arms.
Yeah, he was doing some insane stuff. That's very possible. It's very possible that
Greg is not a liar. I've talked to Greg about personal issues, and like he's like not a liar. It's like for him to admit that he's shooting 10 cc's of test prop in his bicep every day. He said his OCD was so bad when he would open a vial, he had to use it all. He couldn't let any go to waste. So he would shoot a vial a day in his arms. Of course that happens with your arms. I completely believe it.
He's also a really sweet guy, a very nice guy.
Super nice.
Yeah. So Elia Ryan says, mostly a question for Leo. I've had 6 concussions, 3 major, before the age of 16 from playing football. I now have elevated prolactin and believe this is related. Another note is most of my high school football team played football throughout elementary and middle school, and at least half of us could lactate. Shocking. I'm wondering how and why concussions affect your pituitary gland. So this is by the way, have you heard of this, Boston? People with high prolactin. So this is very common. I've had a lot of concussions before. I'm lucky. I don't know how this didn't happen to me, but basically when you get a concussion, you get brain damage. And the most important parts of your brain are the hypothalamus and pituitary. They govern basically your entire life. So when those get damaged, your pituitary or hypothalamus get damaged, one of the outcomes is you could have high TSH levels. Like, for example, I have an MMA guy or a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy who's consulting with me sometimes, and he has high TSH, weirdly high TSH levels, high prolactin levels, and I don't know what's going on, and they seem to be declining a little bit. Why are you laughing, Scott? Is this or the lactating? Is it the kids lactating? That was weird. Yeah, I know that is. But really, that does happen. It's very commonly seen in the academic literature. There's not really a cure for that. You have brain damage. And it's very unfortunate that you got that from football. I've been kicked in the head a bunch of times, jumped, all this kind of stuff, and somehow I didn't get that, but I got tremors and other kinds of...
Dude, the biggest issue that bodybuilders make too is when they have a little bit of high prolactin, they play with their nipples and they like try to squeeze it out. That's the worst thing you could do. The shit will get bigger. That's why gays have like fat nipples, is because of all the nipple play.
I like how he said gays. I don't know, but I didn't mess around with mine too much. When I had like one drop would come out, but you had like
when I was squirting, I would mess around with my nipples and they would literally swell up in size.
That's true, actually. And it would get sore, right?
Yeah, dude, it was way worse. And I have people that do that. They're like, oh, I'm trying to squirt out it. And I'm like, dude, you're making it worse.
No, you don't need to empty it or anything. Exactly.
No, when you empty it, it literally aggravates it and it gets more swollen.
It also fills up more and starts. I don't know the details.
Terrible.
Okay, so Jay Moat says 2 questions. One is, do you guys have any advice on being able to stomach fiber? Even at just a few grams, my stomach is torn apart and I have gas all day. I've tried Fiberlize, greens powder, even fiber from regular foods tear me apart. I know fiber is important. Is there anything that helps the body handle it better? Boston, do you have your clients take fiber?
Yep, sugar-free Metamucil or Fiberlize, but right before bed.
So
how about you, Scott?
No.
You don't use fiber?
No. Nope.
How about veggies?
Well, I'll have like a juice, a green drink that I do every day.
You have to be careful. I mean, the problem with using fiber, obviously, it's going to cause your stomach to bloat a bit and maybe expand your intestinal system. But it's extremely important for your health, Scott. Really important.
Well, it depends. If he's getting it in the diet with a lot of veggies, that would make sense.
Exactly.
Well, in the off season, I don't eat vegetables because I'm eating so much food. That's the last thing I want to eat. But in prep, I eat a good amount of vegetables.
Wow, I think you'd benefit a lot from taking fiber before bed, like a fiber drink.
Yeah, maybe I'll try. Yeah, maybe I'll try that.
So I like Metamucil with stevia. I don't know if you guys know, stevia is an antioxidant.
That's a good one.
There's a lot of research on stevia and the kidneys, by the way, Boston. Stevia is an antioxidant, quite potent. I like to use something that's third-party reviewed. For the audience, a tip. Go to consumerlab.com and sign up there. You can see third-party reviewed supplements. Don't take a fiber from a company that's not third-party reviewed. You don't know what's in it. You don't know what kind of sweetener is in it. You don't know anything. There's no reason to do that.
Is Dave's third-party reviewed?
No. That's my point. Yeah. So I'm saying, like, there's no reason to do that if you don't know where it comes from. And listen, I mean, maybe you trust them, but I don't. So, I mean,
Metamucil has to be.
Metamucil is awesome. It's an awesome product. That's what I use, but it's expensive. It's a little bit more expensive probably, but there are other options too.
Oh, it's not. Dave's Fiberlize is double the price.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Dave's Fiberlize is one of his most expensive products.
That's insane. Well, I don't want to, but yeah, use a third-party reviewed one. So the second question, he says, I know Boston has seen this a lot. Why do all these bodybuilders seem to need to wear Jordans and Jordan clothing? Why do these bodybuilders need to always jump on this financially wasteful bandwagon? It's just overpriced basketball clothing, and most look like tools wearing it, especially the wannabe pros. Why do they all need to do this? Have you seen this?
Dude, it's so annoying. These guys on Instagram, they try to portray this rich ass and they're wasting their money, dude. Most of these guys live paycheck to paycheck, and they literally sit on IG trying to act like they're like ballers. It's fucking cringy as hell, dude.
I agree. The shit you see on Instagram, man, the things it's hilarious. Fake. It is.
The only time I saw a bodybuilder wearing Jordans was. Well, let me comment on something first of all. I didn't know that Jordans were a thing till I came to the US at 25. When I was living around the world, people don't wear that stuff to look cool. It doesn't look cool. It looks like you're going to play basketball. It doesn't like in London, Jordans aren't a thing. People don't want to wear that. So when I came to LA, I kept hearing, especially from ghetto people, oh, I got Jordans, this pair of Jordans and that. I was like, yo, you like that stuff? I was surprised. And then I went to the Arnold ones. I saw Dexter Jackson in the airport, and he was wearing Jordans. I noticed that he had like a cap, and I don't know what the deal is, man. They look bad to me.
They look like clowns.
Clown shoes,
they spend their whole paycheck on a pair of shoes.
That's crazy. Plus, I don't want to wear shoes of another guy's name. It's not that cool to. I'm not a basketball player, and I'm not Jordan. You know what I mean?
And then they complain. They're like, I can't crease my shoes. It's like, you're in the gym. Why are you wearing them to the gym then?
Yeah, they do that sometimes too, and they post that. I'm like, damn, these guys are desperate for attention.
So, well, there's a bunch more detailed questions, but I think we've done. You guys think we've done enough?
Yeah, we've done enough. You shoot us one more. Shoot us a really good one. That'll involve both of us, and we'll end on that note. And then I also want, before we leave, I want Scott to shout out. He's starting a new podcast, and we'll be able to put his new podcast in the info box.
Of course,
I appreciate that, man.
In the background so people can see it.
Yeah, man. I have some questions for you too at some point, Leo, if you don't mind.
Of course. Well, I'm trying to pick a good one, but these are all okay. So, Raymond. Well, actually, this one I didn't know the answer to. You guys are gonna know better than me. Austin McKenna says, "Hi, Leo. What are some common gear storage practices? I live in northern Canada, and it's very common for things to crash and freeze here." Well, maybe Boston. This is like a Boston-specific question, but
yeah, I like to keep it in a dark room at about 70 degrees. You get the best thing to do is like get little boxes or not like Tupperware, big Tupperware things, and you could store them in there, an airtight store, and put them in a dark area in like a 70-degree temperature, and that would keep your gear in the best. Make sure it's dark, no direct light. That's what I would suggest.
The question to involve Scott is this. Kevin Costa says, train to failure for all sets. What is an ideal amount of sets and training frequency? So it's a training question. So I know Scott trains.
A little bit.
Scott doesn't use drugs, but
yeah, there's my specialty. Train to failure 100%, but only. So I'll do like one working set to all out failure per exercise. I'll do maybe 4 exercises. I'll do like what I call feeder sets going up to that working set, but I only do one working set and maybe a back off set, and those are to failure. So let's say total maybe between 6 and 8 sets to failure per workout.
What do you do, Boston? Do you train to failure?
Well, that's about right. I mean, me and him train together. That's about right. Like two warm-ups, 2 working.
Yeah.
When I say 2 warm-ups, they're like working warm-ups, like where I'm not failing, but the last 2 I'm failing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think
Go
ahead.
I go really easy on my warm-up sets. Like, for instance, say I'm doing like incline, like barbell. I'll do like 135 for 15, 225 for 8, 275 for like 2, and then I'll do my working set at 315 till all out failure. I'll drop the weight like 20% and do what I call a back off set, and I'll consider that a working set too, but it's just less weight. That'll be to all out failure too. But like my
incline 315.
Yeah, man, I did 365 for like maybe 6.
Damn, dude,
I was like 2 weeks out.
Drugs, dude. He's gonna grow.
I know, what the hell?
Yeah.
Talent.
I was like 2 weeks out from Tampa last year too, when I was doing that.
Wow, you've got talent.
I'm a strong presser though.
That's the thing. That's what I noticed about guys. They can get super strong, right? But they can only grow so much. But when they start to bring the gear up, Leo, with that strength, they get big.
Yeah, the best thing you can do is be strong and then start using a lot more gear. A lot of gear.
Yeah.
It's gonna blow up.
The only thing I was gonna comment, I don't know how to train for size, but I was gonna say that if you're training, if every set you're getting to failure, you're not training. You can't. It can't be every set. I think what Scott's doing
100%.
sounds. Yeah, if you're just destroying yourself on you're working out. You're not training anymore. You know what I mean? Okay, so Scott, tell us about your podcast. What's it called?
It's going to be called the Other Bodybuilders Podcast. So I want something that's I mean, you guys are probably going to think it's funny because it's going to be based around like men's physique and classic physique, but there's not a lot of coverage of those 2 divisions. I mean, classic is picked up by some people, but men's physique really isn't picked up by anybody. And obviously like my career started in men's physique. So I know a lot of the guys and I know a lot about the sport. And most of these guys that are trying to cover it don't know anything about it. So I want to have a place for, these guys to come on and people to get to know them and, them to get some spotlight that they've never really had because nobody covers it.
No, that's a great idea.
It's a good opportunity, I think, because it's an untapped market. Like, I mean, I know like a lot of like people that probably listen to your podcast don't like men's physique. But there's a lot of people out there that like men's physique. There's a lot of, athletes. There's a lot of fans, and nobody's doing anything with it. So,
no, I'm sure they are. But I'll be following it as well. Is it going to be on your channel, or are you going to make like a separate channel for it?
It'll be on my YouTube channel most likely. I probably won't make a separate channel for it.
Yeah, so shoot your YouTube channel to Leo so he can put it in the info box.
I will.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, man.
Who's going to be your first guest, Scott?
Anton Antipov.
Okay.
You probably don't know him, but he's like the OG like men's physique. He started back in like 2014 when it was like, flower polka dot bathing suits, like hand on the hip, like hip twisted out. Sport was a lot different, but he's still doing it and doing it well. So I wanted him to be on there first, since it's kind of like from the beginning to now.
And I wanted to ask you one last question too. There's one bodybuilder in the men's physique, or no, not bodybuilder. There's one men's physique competitor. He has a really good physique, and he claims natural. Okay, I know his brother personally, and his brother looks amazing, and he claims natural, but his brother's on the next level. Arya Safif.
Oh yeah. Arya, I think he's natural.
You think he's natural? Okay.
I think so. Only maybe not based off his physique, but based off of like knowing him.
Okay, so I don't know if you know his brother. His brother Mike had used to compete for physique too, and he could. Mike had genetics just like his brother. He could have easily went pro, and Mike never went pro and never even tried because he didn't want to do the drugs. And knowing Mike, he was so anti-steroids that I actually believe him. But his brother is on the next level. I was just wondering what you thought about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, but this is like what I see from him. But you know, some of these guys you don't really like know. One of
those guys that will tell you he's natural before asking, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, see that his brother was like that too. So that's
hard. I mean, I hate that shit, man. Nobody cares, bro. Like, seriously, if you have to come out and say you're natural, it's like automatically your excuse for why you look like shit.
Yeah, I hate that too. Like, that's the reason why I don't think that he's natural is because if he's anything like that, if he's like his brother and wants to put it in your head that he never would take anything, sometimes it's a little suspect.
Yeah, no, I mean.
Scott, I don't think people on the channel don't like physique. I think that, well, let me speak for myself. To be honest with you, I think physique is, the only thing I don't understand is the women's sections, not like the women's bikini. I don't know what the hell I don't even know what it is. I don't know what they're judging. It's like a fitness show for me.
Yeah, no, that's hard.
But the men's physique, I think that the complaint people have often is that they don't show their legs. For me, I know this is weird and nobody will agree with me. I don't know anything about bodybuilding, but I think that the legs are oversized in bodybuilding. I think that they take away from the physique. I would never want huge legs personally. Never. I don't think it's a cool thing. It doesn't look good. You look like toads. You look at frogs. Everybody looks like a frog.
It's hard enough to fit into clothes when you have like
your legs squeaking against when I used to
no, I don't want legs like that either.
It definitely doesn't feel good to have big legs.
No.
Feel normal.
I feel like legs should like not be the most, and then everybody who can't grow their upper body complains about other people's legs. Oh, like his legs are small. Nobody gives a crap. Like Sergio Oliver always talks about. Oh, I'm a wheel guy. No, you're not. It's because you can't grow your upper body. You know what I mean? But nobody grows up as a kid. He's like, oh, I want big ass legs. No,
I know, right?
Nobody does that shit.
I know.
So I
beach
like
muscles.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you want the muscles that, I mean, the masculine things is width and not like big legs. I feel like when women have big quads, it's cool. It's more like a feminine thing to me than anything else.
Like the Brazilians?
Yeah, I like that stuff.
The wellness division, have you seen that?
I originally saw it. Used to be. I don't like low body fat girls, so like it's not my thing. But they started getting lower body fat, the wellness ones. Recently.
Yeah, they're lean.
Yeah. And I like.
You don't like that one chick? What's the chick's name that always wins the shows, Scott? Yarishna. Yeah, Yarishna. You don't like that look?
No, you got to show it to me. I haven't seen her.
Oh, okay. God.
I'm going to send you the arm wrestling video and you send this to me after.
Dude, there's no way you're going to not think this chick's like really pretty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to.
Agree, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was going to plead the fifth again. All right.
I plead the fifth.
We'll let you go, Scott. Thanks for joining us.
Yo, I appreciate it, man.
All right, we'll see you.
Bye, guys.